Hi, I'm James. This is a beginner-friendly tutorial for crocheting the single crochet stitch. This is one of the most basic stitches that will be used when you learn how to crochet. This is a 4.5 millimeter hook. That means that this part right here is 4.5 millimeters, and that will be used with this yarn. I'm using this size hook because on the yarn I'm using, it recommends using a 4.5 millimeter hook. You can use a smaller hook if you want to make a project with tighter stitches. You can use a larger hook to make a project with looser stitches. But this is just for demonstration purposes. This is the yarn I'm using. And let's get started. Now start, you want to find the end. Found the end. Now you start with a slip knot. If that was too confusing for you, I'm sure there are other tutorials. Now you want to make sure that the slip knot is tightened around this part of the crochet hook to keep it consistent. If you struggle with the tension on your starting chain, you can use a slightly larger hook, like a 5 millimeter or a 5.5, and then switch to the hook that you are using for the rest of your project after the starting chain. I don't have that issue as much anymore, but I did used to just switch to a larger hook. Anyways, for the starting chain, wrap it around. Make sure it goes down here to keep it consistent. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 across. We're going to add one more chain. Now for the first row, you have to put the hook in the second chain on the loop. Let's do the top bump. Wrap the yarn around, pull it up. Wrap the yarn around, pull it through the 2 loops. And that's one single crochet. And now we go again. Two single crochet. Now sometimes the yarn starts to get a little bit more tricky because it bunches up together, but we still have 3 chains. I'm not used to looking through the camera like this. There we go. 4 single crochet. 5 single crochet. 6 single crochet. 'Sometimes you have yarn that splits a little bit. Sometimes it splits, sometimes it's a bit more tricky. But you just keep going until you get to the end of your row. There we go, in the last one on the row. Now we have one row of 10 single crochet. Chain 1 and turn. This is what we mean by turn. And now you see how there's a little pocket right there? Little pocket. That's where you insert your hook. Underneath those 2 loops. Pull and pull through. In through those, right there. and pull through. Single crochet. Insert, yarn over, pull through. In, grab through the 2 loops. In, grab through the 2 loops. In, grab the 2 loops. In, grab through the 2 loops. In, grab through the 2 loops. The yarn's starting to change color now. And see this? Here is the extra chain that I made to be the sides. That's not a stitch. Here, this is the final stitch, and right next to it, that's not a stitch. You're gonna ignore that. And now, single crochet. Now, if you have trouble distinguishing where the end of your row actually is, you can use a stitch marker. You could put the stitch marker right there to mark that that's the one on the end, or the one on the other end, like that one. That's a good way of telling what your stitch is on the end, so that you don't accidentally add or decrease stitches. I don't need that, so I'm removing that. Although I will use it depending on what project I'm making. Now we're going to chain 1 again, and then turn lengthwise. Put it in there, in between both. Make sure it goes all the way down to keep it consistent. And just keep on single crochet. For beginners, I do recommend using light colored yarn and or light colored color changing yarn because it makes it easier to see your stitches. I know that fluffy yarns can seem very appealing. However, fluffy yarns make it very hard to see your stitches. So if you're not already experienced in knowing what your stitches are going to look like and where they start and end, use a yarn like this. Maybe not this particular yarn, but this one is more beginner friendly than some of the fluffy, crazy textured yarns that you might see in the store. Now, yep, that was our last stitch. Chain 1 in there. Not chain. I've been doing something with the moss stitch lately, so I was used to doing that. I need more yarn. I did not manage to pull it from the center. I've been unwinding the yarn because sometimes it does not come out nicely, but that's okay. I've never done a tutorial before, but if you guys like this, I might try to do a moss stitch tutorial. A lot of people often say that crochet is very difficult and they don't know where to begin. I'm not sure how helpful this is, but I'm hoping that maybe this is a place where you might try and begin. And now I know it's tempting to use single crochet for a large blanket. Many beginners attempt such a feat. However, I would discourage that. I'm not saying you can't, I'm just saying it will take forever because single crochet, as nice as it looks, is not a very quick process, as you can tell. The best way to learn is to simply see something being done over and over again. And so let's finish this swatch. we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. But the edges, they don't look that great. Let's see how you do a border. Chain 1, chain 2. Insert your hook on the stitch at the end. Let's get a little bit more yarn off the ball, or skein, either way. Now insert your hook. Hook. Just single crochet along the edges. Chain 2 again. Alright, get that hook in there. And tuck that tail in so that you crochet over the tail. This can help hide the tail when you're making a project. And just single crochet on the other loop of that starting chain. There are other ways for weaving in your tails, but I find that this one is a fairly simple way of keeping it hidden. Chain 2. And now more yarn. Yeah, I should get a ball holder at some point. Chain 2 for the corner. Pull that a little bit, make sure you're getting all of it. You want to make sure that that tail is going to disappear. It might look a little bit bunched up for a moment, but don't worry. You can just pull it through. Maybe there is a little bit more. I underestimated how long that tail was, but that's okay. Pull it out a little bit. Continue the single crochet. Now it disappeared. It's a bit tricky to hold because it's so small. And then we got to the last one on the end, and what we're going to do is grab it, but we're not going to keep it there. We're going to pull it through that final one. We're going to clip the yarn. We're going to pull that all the way through. It's finished. Or is it? We still have this little tail. You can use one of these things, or you can use a needle. I like to use these things. Now, we are going to weave in this tail. Let's put it in there. The best way to weave in the tails is to hide them. It doesn't really matter what direction your tails go, as long as they are tucked underneath the stitches and hiding. In fact, it's better that they go in a bunch of random directions to decrease the likelihood of the tail being pulled out, for example, in the wash or something else. Sometimes it doesn't go neatly through, but usually once you pull on it a little bit, it does. That didn't even have it on it because I'm using one that is the wrong size. Now, if this was a bigger project, I would have brought that through a bit longer. This is just an example. The bigger project, I'd say the further you would want your tail to travel to hide it. Just pull on it a bit, see if it looks good. And there we have a small single crochet square. Hope this helps anyone trying to learn how to crochet.